Baruch, of course, only one Bari Olam knows, but I hope to leave to Eretz Yisrael in the morning, so maybe we'll be screening the Shir next week from someplace in Yerushalayim. Then, depending on my history with plane rides, you never know where it could wind up, so it may just get interesting. I'll be Bez Hashem Yisbarach next week. Of course, everything is subject to change, as life is subject to change. Really, life is not subject to change. Life is going on the way it was supposed to. Our plans are subject to change. Alright, so one of the great excitements of traveling to Eretz Yisrael is, of course, making sure that your luggage is not overweight. I never understood that really, because people are willing to spend like who knows how many thousands on the trip, but no. They will fight to the death to make sure that they don't spend another whatever it costs to have an extra couple of pounds. So you know that the minig is, in Klal Yisrael, that you go to a store and you buy a luggage scale. Luggage scale. So you can either go to an electronic store and buy a more sophisticated luggage scale, or you can do as I do, and you go to one of those 98-cent stores and you buy a luggage scale over there. Figure luggage scale is a luggage scale, right? No. The problem with the luggage scale that you buy in the 98-cent store is that the way these things work is you have to connect them to the suitcase, then you lift the suitcase. And if you have a luggage scale from a 98-cent store, what happens is the suitcase then cracks off and comes crashing to the ground, and you're left holding the luggage scale in your hand. And where do you get another scale anyway? So I never understood why, I'm trying to get to a point here, which I sometimes do, sometimes don't, but I'm trying to get to a point. Never understood why you need a luggage scale anyway. What's wrong with just using the bathroom scale? Now, I know a lot of people are very sensitive about their bathroom scales. It never leaves the bathroom. For any people are scared you'll be able to trace it, especially today. I heard that the NSA traces all bathroom scales. They have records of any person that got onto a scale in America from, they keep records of it. People are very concerned today. They keep it behind closed doors. Right? Somebody once bought me a bathroom scale, and I got on and had a recording that went on. One at a time, please. One at a time, please. That's what it says. All right, so I said, let's use this. Why can't why can't you put luggage onto a bathroom scale? So we tried it. We brought, for the first time in its history, the bathroom scale down to the dining room, and we put the suitcase on it. Now, right away, I realized there's a bunch of technical problems. Now, first of all, the suitcase kind of like, it rocks, so it's not totally on the scale. And then when you try to turn it over sideways and put it down on the scale, it covers the numbers, which is a problem. Now, in the good old days, you at least had a minute with the spring scales when you took it off the chap where it is. But with the electronic scales, as soon as you take the weight off, it disappears. So it's like a catch-22. It becomes like a kind of a cute game, as I told you this once before. This person that needed to lose weight gets onto the scale. He takes a deep breath, holds his stomach in, and the guy that's his trainer says that's not going to help. He says the numbers are going to be the same. He says it's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to be able to see the number. He says you have to understand. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this bathroom scale to work. I mean, it works, but it doesn't help if you don't see the number. So someone had an idea. The idea was that I should get onto the scale. Okay? I said, how's that going to help? They don't measure the people. They measure no. We're going to see your weight without the suitcase, and then lift the suitcase, and we'll see how much more it weighs, and then we will deduct the difference. I don't know why. I just didn't like this idea. I don't know if you know what it's like trying to stand on a bathroom scale holding a probably 300-pound suitcase, right? And to my mazel, as 1 minute, because you have to wait for it to beep, wait for it to beep. You know what I mean? It's just hold it a minute, and I'm desperately trying to hold on at dear life. And then, of course, you have these series of people that come and ask you to bring things for them to Eretz Yisrael, like a huge box of candles. In case there's a blackout on the way, I guess it'd be very convenient. A box of candles. Well, his daughter says you can't get these candles in Eretz Yisrael. I see. She likes to light candles that are 8 inches, and as you saw, you got only 7 inches and 9 inches. So you wouldn't mind bringing a case of these, right? The candles. So this guy walks in, and here I am. I'm standing on a bathroom scale, desperately trying to hold on to a suitcase. And he says, what are you doing? I said, well, do you really have to talk about this right now? And so we explained the whole cheshbon. He says, no, let me show you how to cheshbon. You really do it. He says, so what's your weight again? So whatever my weight is, I'll be nice to myself. I'll say 220. I'll leave the rest up to your imagination. 220 plus. He goes, all right, so 220 pounds plus this. So, and he starts doing the math. And everyone's grinding around doing the math. Wait, how much you say he weighs? 220? No, 230. No, it doesn't weigh 230. Get on it. It has to be at least 240. And I said, could we stop discussing this already? Like, we were supposed to be weighing the suitcase, not me. And then somebody else comes in, and this person that runs a day camp or something in Eretz Yisrael asked if I can get this inflatable ball for them. So the guy came in to bring the ball. Walks in with a ball like this, you know, that you hold on to a thing and you punch it, this big blue bag. I said, where exactly do you think I'm putting that, in the cockpit? He says, no, we're going to deflate it once we're here. We're going to deflate it. We're going to deflate it once we're here. So this other guy goes and he starts sitting on the ball to deflate it. And then a neighbor walks into my house and he sees me on the scale holding the suitcase. This other guy sitting on a ball deflating it, and he said, it looks like it's the wrong time to come in here. I think he's still trying to figure out what is happening over there and what we're doing. So you know the rule, I told you this once before. People say, can I bring something? I say, no problem, put it through the mailbox. They say, but it won't fit through the mailbox. Then you can't bring it. Okay, you understand that? Now, Rabbi said, I was thinking in Shemayim there has to be some lesson over here. It's not like I'm used to lifting weights or stuff. Last time I was with a doctor, he said, you know, you really should start doing exercise. I said, what kind of exercise? He said, you should lift weights. I said, I do that every time I get up. I don't understand what the problem is. Like, I never chap. No, the more weight you have, the more exercise you get when you lift. No? So why don't you automatically lose weight? One of the kashas I have, okay. We'll leave for a different time. But right now, I was thinking to myself as follows. That when in Shemayim, when we have that scale, as El is around the corner, and they start weighing our mitzvahs and aveiros, it's not the actual weight of the mitzvah and the aveira itself, how things are judged. There's often a lot of weight added to the mitzvah, and that's based on how difficult it was to perform the mitzvah. It's one time that a person performs a mitzvah b'tzar is equivalent to 100 times shaloi b'tzar. And b'tzar means when you're now in the mood of doing it, and you do it, you get 100 times the amount. And the same is true for the Aveira. There are circumstances that are, you know, the Rabbi Shem knows every person, what his Nisyanis are, what his Yetzirah is. The way we measure mitzvahs and Aveiros is not the way a Kadosh Baruch Hu measures it. The Chavetz Chaim says that it actually varies. Depends on how you measure other mitzvahs and Aveiros. In other words, if you measure the other guy's mitzvah and Aveira and saying the guy probably didn't really mean it, he's not so bad, then Rabbi Shem measures you that way also. And if you're pretty strict in your measurement of others, so that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu measures your mitzvahs and your averos. Having said that, so Parashas Pinchas always introduces the 3 weeks, and Parashas Pinchas has all of the Yom Tov in it, the karbanis of all the Yom Tov. As a matter of fact, every single Yom Tov we read from Parashas Pinchas, which makes sense that it introduces the 3 weeks, no? Doesn't it? The Welt says a word when Pinchas is in the Heim, kluckt man. When Pinchas is in the Fremd, singt man, or tanzt man. When Pinchas is home, we cry. When Pinchas is away, we're so happy. If someone is named Pinchas over here, this is nothing personal, I don't mean you. Meaning when we read Parashas Pinchas during the summer, when it's up to Parashas Pinchas, we're crying. It's the beginning of the 3 weeks. And yet, the entire year, when it comes Yom Tov and we read the Haftarah from Parashas Pinchas, we're happy. So what's pshat over here? How does this all fit into place? How can we understand this? It should have something to do with the scale. That's what am I talking about, right? Hopefully this is going to work out at the end. The Kedushas Levi says, just like when the month of Adar comes, it is incumbent upon us to add simcha. So Mishenichnas Av, when Av comes, mimatin b'simcha, we have to diminish our simcha as the halachas, which is why you're listening to capellas and not the music, which I think sometimes the capellas are a little better than the music, but in any event, and all the other things you can't make a shechiyano, and the things you can't do in the 3 weeks. However, says the Kedushas Levi, just like you have to do the mitzvahs of Purim with a simcha, Mishenichnas Av, Memaitin, when Av comes, you have to perform all of the halachas of Memaitin, meaning all the things, all the restrictions that we cannot do in the 3 weeks, and as that proceeds to the 9 days and becomes more restrictive, you gotta do that b'simcha. What does it mean, you gotta do it b'simcha? Great news! Tomorrow is 110 degrees, humidity 300%, and you cannot go swimming because it's the first day of the 9 days. B'simcha! Yay! What does this mean? How do I apply this? A. And second, I mean, I mean, l'chayru, we're supposed to go the opposite of simcha now, right? Isn't that the point over here? Out there is simcha, and of is the opposite of simcha. So we will try to put that into place as well. Someone showed me an article, that someone shows me interesting articles, that a university in London did a study for many years, and they came to a conclusion, here, this is important, Rabbi Sayin, I wouldn't want you to miss this, that plants know math. You understand that? I would like to know where you get a job to work in one of these studies places. I would love to, 3 years of trying to... Do plants know math? No. Yeah? No. Yeah. You know, you get paid for it at the end of the week with it. I don't know. The wrong business. Okay. Do plants know math? So the study is the plants know math. And they were saying that it's very precise formulas that even the simplest of plants have to take in the amount of sunlight that they need during the day to keep it covered. It should be able to breathe at night. For as you know, plants and trees are the opposite of human beings. A human being takes in oxygen and gives out carbon monoxide. No, it gives out carbon dioxide. Right. Oh, that's what it is. I went into a store, asked for a carbon dioxide alarm. They didn't know what I was talking about. Well, now I realize. Okay, sorry. So the human being takes in oxygen, it gives out carbon monoxide is poison, right? That comes out of the cars, right? Okay. So a human being takes in oxygen, and if you live in New York, he also takes in carbon monoxide but one of those buses idling on. So he takes it, he's supposed to take in oxygen, he's supposed to give out carbon dioxide. Plants are the other way around. They take in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen, which is why the plants clean the air. But in order for the plants to breathe properly, they figure it has to do with the sunlight. And I'm not going to go any further here, so you'll realize I have no clue what I'm talking about. But they do know like this, that it has to take in a certain amount of sunlight, and it has to be very precise. And if it takes in too much sunlight, it withers away. And if it takes in too little sunlight, it cannot survive the night. And kal v'chomer, the winter, and so on, for those plants that live throughout the winter. So they said that plants actually use a very precise mathematical formula to figure out how much sunlight they should take in, and it changes throughout the year depending on how cold it is, depending on how long the night is, depending on where they are. And ad kedei kach, that they're even trying to solve certain mathematical questions through what the plants are doing, because the plants are so sophisticated in math. If the plants would take that trig regent, they would get a clear 100, even without those red Baron books and stuff. Now, if you ask me, this is quite amazing. But I think that the conclusion is a shtickle, it reminds me of the guy that did this test on frogs. You know, that he cut off one leg, which he guessed Tzar B'Lechaim was not part of his thing, and he came to the conclusion the frog could still jump. And he cut off the second leg, the frog could still jump. Third leg could still jump. The fourth leg, he said jump, jump, jump. Came to the conclusion that when you cut off the four legs, the frog can no longer hear. Okay? There are people that think this way. You know, they're stickle... this is an amazing thing. And what does he come to the conclusion? That the plants know math? I mean, maybe the conclusion is that there's a Boirei Olam on this world that created that created a brain in a blade of grass. And maybe this is what Chazal mean when they say Ein lach esav, that there is no piece of grass down here that doesn't have heavenly guidance, that doesn't have a malach that tells it grow and grow. Doesn't this tell us that there's a Boirei Olam on the world? Not that plants know math. Let the plant teach you math. And maybe this is the inyan that the plants were created before human beings, because this kayach, to have the ability to be able to draw in the sunlight and to take in just enough, that you don't go crazy with too much, and it carries you through the darkness. Maybe the Rebbeinu Shalom implanted that, imbued that into the Bria for us human beings. Maybe that's why the plants had to be created before people. And you know, there are studies that it's not pshat, well, it takes enough sunlight to make it through the darkness. It needs the darkness. There are studies, there are psychological studies that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have some big professionals, that person needs darkness, certain amount of darkness. Is that true? I read it someplace. That we also have big honors here. Nothing here too, modest people. That a person needs a certain amount of darkness, and in a city that never sleeps, this affects one of the reasons that people are agitated and so on. That there has to be a point in our life where the Zohar says everything sleeps, even daimim sleeps. You know, of course, if someone would have learned that 1,000 years ago, he would have said, "What? This table is sleeping?" But the emes is, if you study the molecules and the atoms and the neutrons and the protons spinning around, they go slower and faster. There is a pchina of sleep. The more sophisticated the person is, the deeper the sleep is. A horse, as you know, need not sleep standing. The more sophisticated the person, the deeper, the more he is detached during sleep. A fly also sleeps, even though the one that was hovering over your nose the entire night didn't seem to get too much of it. But the fly sleeps very little. So the amount of sleep it corresponds directly to how sophisticated the Bri is. The Sefer Shem Shmuel talks about that a lot. But L'maisa, the Rebbeinu Shem created a very perfect world. And in this perfect world there is light and there is darkness. And there are times where things are going our way, and there are times that things are not going our way. And the Rebbeinu Shem has given us the kaya to draw in light during the times of light that it carries us through during the time of darkness. Let's go a little bit weiter here. So the kids, this is the week, kids going off to camp, and the house empties, and your wallet empties, and everything else, and you have at least a day rest before they start calling about all the things that they need. So when the kids get older, they have this thing, they don't want to go with the bus. They want to go with the bus. You want to get to camp early, you grab a bed, you grab a pillow. So they want to hire a van. And a bunch of kids get together and hire a van. So I never let them do it. But when the kids got older, okay, then I had a couple of friends that drive vans and they're trustworthy, so we said fine. So my older daughter, she's going to camp, fine. She said, Carla, now you can go with the van with your friends. You have to go with the bus and the truck, and may save a few dollars. Now one of the things I really wanted to save is, it's like before camp, what happens is, for those of you that are sending kids to camp, you have a shtickl chelik of avodas perach for Mitzrayim, if you want to know what it is. You carry like 16 duffel bags and bags into your car, and cases of water. Kids are very into cases of water today, right? There's no water in the country. I know we go through this every year, but I need this for my own personal therapy here, to vent there a little bit. There's no water in the country, you should know, because you have to have the water. And then, where do you get the water cheaper? There's a gas station, in Long Island, all the way at the tip. What's it called, the tip of Long Island, What, the bottles of, what's it called? Yeah, right over there. Water over there is like, 2 cents cheaper. Let's drive out there for, let's get it. Let's go get that water. Going to the gas station to get water. Your car runs on water? It's very complicated here, don't ask. So you see, it's amazing. You come to these places where the buses are, and you see like parents schlepping these huge cases of water. What do you need all this water for? I stopped doing it one year, for my sons anyway, when I came visiting day and they were having this whopping of a water fight in the thing. I thought, that's why I schlepped the water! Alright, so you gotta schlep the things. Then you come to this place, there's this one truck, and you have like 300 minivans all trying to simultaneously get into position, and everyone unloading in the baking sun. And in the middle there's like this Mustang that's stuck between 500 minivans, and you can imagine he's not very happy at that given moment. So great, you take a van with 4 or 5 people, van comes to your house, you load the stuff in, so that alone is worth it. So the van driver says, sorry, one stop, everybody got to bring the stuff to one stop. I says, we'll give you the extra $5, whatever it is per stop, and whatever you want to charge. He says, no, one stop. I'm trying to argue with him, and he says, I got to do it this way, I'm sorry. Okay, so you have to load the stuff up again, bring it to the one stop, which wasn't as bad as a truck with 10,000. And then they pick they try to pick a place where it's the least amount of traffic. They usually pick along the cemetery, which is a great simon bracha to send camps up. Great idea, So, but then there's not a tree in sight over there. The sun bakes on your head. And of course you have to stay to wave goodbye. You can't do that. The bus takes off a half hour later and you got to stand there like half dead. And you don't have any water because all the water is in the bus. Till that wave through the black window, the window can't even see them through the tinted window. So now, so we go over to him and I come over to his house and I say, at least there's trees over here. I say, why didn't you not want to make stops? He said, I'll explain to you. He says, I have to load up, 5, 6 girls and their stuff over here into this van. And I'm pretty good at making sure everything fits. He says, I'm like an engineer. And he is. I could do it like a puzzle. Everything fits in perfectly. Okay? But that's only if I see everything beforehand. In other words, you show me 6 suitcases, you show me 6 cases of water, one is 6 inches, one is 2 inches, you show me that, show me whatever you want. As long as I see everything before and I begin to plan and I work it out and I put the boxes underneath and the garment bags on top and I stick it all in. The problem, if I go to one girl at a time or one boy at a time, I load, and then I have to unload to reload and unload to reload. So it's not just the extra stop, it's reloading everything. My Shver, Zayn Gesund, he's like this amazing packer. He used to go to the country in his station wagon. Believe it or not, there was a 60-something Impala, Chevy Impala. And it was what went into, he had that every inch covered. You could have not fit a refill to a Parker pen in this thing after it was full. And he would always... and he had a shita that if you opened up the boxes, which is true, and you lined everything up, you put everything in like a puzzle, article by article, you get everything in, right? And he would always say, and I know what your shvig is going to come out with the last minute after I'm all done. And sure enough, she would come out with this teapot with a long spout that goes like this. It's, I know it, But he got it in Elsa, Baruch Hashem. They had fun in those days. So Lamaisa, there's a yesod here, and the yesod is that there's a bunch of pieces here that seem impossible. But look at it in one shot, it does fit in. Okay? Now, but we've discussed this quite often. Chazal tell us, Tinik Noilid, the kicker biyada. Every baby comes down to this world, and before you come down to this world, the Kadosh Baruch Hu dispatches you with all of the parnasa that you need, and all of the kaiches that you need to get through life. It's all there. And the Malach shows the baby everything, metchilosei vatzayfei. And the Malach gives the baby a tour of the entire life. Why is this necessary? Because subconsciously in our mind, we know everything fits in. Everything that we have to do in this world is going to fit in for the ride back up. The problem is, because life is nisyanos, and life is working around limitations, so consciously we forget it, but subconsciously we have already seen, we saw everything. So in the course of life, as we face difficulties, and we say, how am I going to get through the next mortgage payment? How am I going to get through this crisis with my child? How is a person going to get through a health crisis? How is he going to get through a financial crisis? How is he going to get through the shalom bayis issue? And we wonder, it's impossible. So we have to draw from our inner kayach that the Rebbeinu Shem put into us. There is enough sunlight within me to get through this. There is no extra tzaris. There's not a mashu of extra tzar. Whatever packages you have in your life have already been put down before you, and it all fits into your ability to be able to carry. Although we have to pack it on different occasions, so it looks like it'll never come in. But remember, it all goes in. You just need the siyata d'shmaya to figure out how. So a friend of mine, who traveled to Yisrael last week, so he has a computer, and he got a new computer, that he was going to work on his shiurim, whatever it was on the way, and one of his kids came running by the computer, and it toppled over, and he said, Baruch Hashem, the computer's okay, picks it up, the computer was fine, he checked it out, and once he was sure the computer was fine, he went to see how the kid was doing. No, just kidding. I saw someone showed me another interesting article, that some companies coming out with such a waterproof computer that it says over there you can use it as you're bathing your kids. I want to know who exactly is on the computer when they're bathing their kids. And we have a major problem here in our society. In any event, never mind whether the computer is waterproof or not. All right, never mind that. But, computer's okay, so he checks afterwards and he sees that the plug for the charger that went into the computer, the little tip, cracked off. Okay? So he pulls the tip out, and he goes, and of course he keeps using the computer until the battery goes out. Now what? You knew the battery was going to go out. Don't worry about tomorrow. Okay. So he goes to a local store and he picks up a piece, one of those replacement parts, and he comes home and he puts it in. It doesn't go. Goes back to the guy. It's not the right. It doesn't fit. He says they changed it. They made it much longer. You need a longer tip. So he goes to a different store, a bigger store, and they sell him a whole charger with a bunch of at all different sizes. You can just stick it onto the chargers. He connects all the different extensions, and none of them fit into this hole, because they also know what extensions are there. They make sure that it doesn't fit into the hole. So he's asked me to go to one of the major stores to pick it up. So I go to one of the major stores. They says, listen, I have this model computer, because I'm passing by. The guy says, no problem, we have the plug, and he takes out this box. He says, it has all different sizes. I said, I've been through this. Okay, can I try it? So he says, well, you have to buy it, and if it doesn't work, you can give it back. Okay, so stand in line half hour to buy it. Then it didn't fit in. Stand in line half hour to give it back. Okay. He says, this is very strange. He says, it's like off by a quarter inch. Why would they do that? You know why they did that. Because they don't want you to order any replacement parts. They want you to order the parts from them. Alright, so it goes weiter. My says, guys going off to Yisrael, calls the company, they say it'll take, whatever it'll take to get there. He's leaving without his computer. He says, this is like, this, I'm leaving. I have hours and hours of work, and I wanted to work it out and organize it on the plane. He says, and I can't get the information off my computer. I can't even get it onto a USB. Did I say that right? USB? Okay. And I can't even get it because the thing is not charged. And, what does he do? So they gave him all sorts of ideas. They said, well, buy a new computer. You'll get a new charger. Return it after 14 days. No, I don't do things like that. Don't do, this is not a gemach here. Chil Hashem, don't do things like that. Guy says, go to a computer store, and connect your computer to the, pull out the plug from one of the computers on the place. I don't make Chil Hashem. Fine, okay. In that case, guess what? Then you are going without your computer. Then there is absolutely nothing you can do. Then you are going without it. So Lamaisa, he's going without it. He has no choice. And he's sitting on the plane, and there's a young kid sitting next to him, and he begins to schmooze with him. And Lamaisa, he said he wound up, the kid was having, his problems, and this person's a very smart person. They had one of those 8-hour schmoozing. And when he walked out, he also had a connection with his Rebbe. Whatever it was a tzos nefashos for this kid. He says, if I would have had that computer, right, I would have said, hi, how are you? I would have offered him some cookies, and I would have gone to my work. I said, I went to say a word to him afterwards. I would have asked him maybe to get up. I have to go to the bathroom, but without mincha now or something. I wouldn't have said anything to him afterwards. So he's thinking a life may have been saved. You know why life may have been saved? You see, because this tip of metal was 1 millimeter too short. Your Rabbi you couldn't make it a millimeter more. No. Hashem says, I made a bedafka 1 millimeter less. Because I want you to talk to the kid, not to be on the computer. You understand? Because you could have been mechazik. So that we understand that all of the frustrations in life, where something is just not working, and it's off by 1 millimeter. Your Rabbi said, make it off by a mile, let's feel better. Right? I was like, you don't find parking, but you turn down a block and 6 people are pulling into parking spaces. So what's the Rabbi Hashem telling you? If you would have gone down the block, there was no parking, you would say there's no parking. And now you're saying, guess what? Hashem does not want you to park on this block, but right? You keep coming to each spot a second later. You know the feeling? For those of you that are not listening in New York, when you wait 5 minutes to make a U-turn for a parking spot, and you finally make the U-turn, and someone goes in and chaps it before you, right? Great feeling. You have to have a lot of munah, right, and betachin. A lot of chayvus lavavas under your belt. Hey, and Hashem didn't want me to get the spot, that's all. And sometimes Hashem wants to let you know that you can't have this spot. And that's why the person pulls in a second before you. But it's with a cheshbon. It may be off by 1 millimeter, but it's a cheshbon. So the Gemara says in the Schachter Tainus, Tav Ches, Schachter Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He's the one who went up to Gan Eden alive. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was the one who went out to the people that were sick in the woods, had contagious diseases, to learn with them. Nobody else would do it. Yeshua ben Levi is the one that traveled around with Eliyahu Navi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had time to learn with everybody. He says, Kol hasameach b'yisurin sheba'in olav, a person that rejoices with the yisurim, with the afflictions that he is constantly dealing with. Maybe Yeshua li'olam, he brings a Yeshua to the world, and he says, because the pasuk says, Bahem, if a person indulges in the yisurim, oilam that takes place when a Messiah will be helped. Now, notice what Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is saying. He's saying, I'm trying to get things done. It's not working. I'm trying to apply for a new job. I keep giving in resumes. They keep coming back. It's not happening. It's b'yisurin sheba olav. There seems to be an ongoing process. I'm not getting the parking space. I need this thing for my computer, and everyone has it off by 1 millimeter. And the fact that they have 30 different choices, and each one is off by 1 millimeter, so it's Yisurim Sheba and Olav. So do you understand that Rabbi Hashem is directing you? He's not holding you back? And if you're willing to understand this, guess what? Maybe Yeshua Li'olam. You're bringing Yeshua to this world. Perhaps, and I would venture to suggest that our friend understood, so this is why the piece of metal had to be 1 millimeter short. That because he recognized that gave him the koyach to be able to speak. And call us Behem dafkin, your series of afflictions, whatever your issue is. And Oilam, you understand that, wait a second, right now is a bunch of odd pieces, it'll never fit into the van. I'll never get through all these things that are tugging me in different directions. But Oilam, no, the Rabbi Hashem sent you down to this world. It was all there, it all came out, and it's all going to go back in. V'niva sheya. It doesn't say you will be helped, it says v'niva sheya. V'niva sheya is passive. What does passive mean? Passive means that a Yeshua was not there. But because you were willing to be mevatel yourself, the Yeshua comes. And bittul isn't always easy. The guy was telling me, he was like, he says he flew a while ago. He told me the story. I don't know where he got it from, or if it's true or not, but it's human nature. He says that that it was one of the planes about to take off, and there was a delay, another delay, another delay, another delay, another delay. Finally, they're ready to go, and the flight crew says to a woman, okay, please put the seatbelts on your son. She goes, no, I'm going to wake him up. She says, well, we can't take off unless all seatbelts are on. FAA regulation 6469 BEX YZ. She says, I was ready on time with a seatbelt on. This airline messed up. We're sitting in this plane 3 hours. Now it's your problem. I'm not putting the seatbelt on. She's going, ma'am, we cannot take off until you put the seatbelt on. I am not putting the seatbelt on. Everyone's, what's the problem? What's the problem? Everyone's crowded around. One guy says, I'll put the seatbelt on. Don't you dare touch my son. You know, this is back and forth. And they're begging and pleading. She says, no, I was ready on time. Now you're not going to wake him up. Why the kid didn't wake up from the whole... So finally the captain comes out and he says, hey, lady, put the seatbelt on. No, it's your fault. You're a lousy captain, and now it's your problem. And people are like, so he tells her like this. He says, listen, I'm going to taxi the plane to the runway. Okay? And before I get clearance for takeoff, I am going to ask the flight crew if the seatbelt is on. And if it's not, I'm going to turn around and come back to the gate. You understand that? It's your problem. No one is waking up my child now. And the plane actually taxied to the runway and turned around and came back to the gate. And by then, there were like 30 police cars that came. I guess the communications works in the cockpit, and she sees 30 police officers getting on, so suddenly the seatbelt goes on. She goes, hi, everything okay? And they said, lady, what's the problem? She says, no problem, the seatbelt is on. And the captain comes out and says, okay, the seatbelt's on, you can take off. He says, you can take off, but not on this plane, you're not taking off. And they took her off the plane kicking and screaming together with her kid. And I can only imagine, you know, what penalty she'll have to, what they'll charge her with, the whole plane waiting and everything else. But, you know, that is human nature, okay? It's human nature. So I said, don't you feel for everyone bad on the plane? I said, I feel bad for that Shalom Bayis counselor with her husband. You know, we could do this. We could become so stubborn in our lives. We wouldn't go so far because most of us will think about what the repercussions are. That's why most of us wouldn't go that far. But if we really believe that some people don't have a way of thinking of what the repercussions are. But if we really didn't believe there were repercussions, if we were allowed to our own vices and akshanis, many of us would do the same thing. No, now it's your problem. You know, let's hold a scorecard. And that destroys marriages, and it destroys lives, and it destroys people. So it's not working out the way you want. When your kid was up, he didn't want a seatbelt on. Now that he's sleeping, you're going to have to wake him up. Well, guess what? This is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided the plane is going to take off. And that's what it means, yeah, I have my plans, and the Rabbi Hashem has his. And that's Yisurim when you can't execute your plans. But I realize Hashem has the flight plan for my life, not me. And with that, maybe Yeshua, not only for himself, but Yeshua Li'olam. She can get into this whole thing of legal trouble, or whatever it is, for being an action that Rabbi Shalom says, Yeshua B'Levi is teaching us. But for the opposite of akshanis, there are Yeshuas. The Altaf in Kelm, I think that he once, before he was Niftari, he said to the Chevra Kadisha, they should please take his clothes and have it laundered, cleaned. And they asked him why. So these his last words. He said he knew they were going to take his clothes and give it away to the poor people. They should have clean clothes when he gets it. That's like a pretty interesting thing to think about before someone leaves this world. But I want to try to explain that. That meant that he always viewed his clothes in his lifetime as a gift of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that he had used them for the proper, and now he wanted to pass on that gift in the right way. It's an indication of how he lives his life. I once saw in someone showed me one of the dictionaries, it described marriage as a merger of two corporate entities. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound very really caring for one another. The story of this woman, she was a great baker, and her husband was dying, and he was gasping his last, and he goes, please, she says, what? And the house is baking with cake. He said, my last minutes, the cake smells so good. Yeah, can I have a piece? Oh, I'm sorry, we need it for the funeral, you know. You can't have it now. You can do everything right, but there's no real relationship. Where it is. There was a perception of a relationship. Life is not a bunch of tiles that go in flat. It's puzzle pieces that have to fit in. It looks like to us the puzzle pieces will never work. But guess what? The Rabbi Shalom says this puzzle started out as a whole puzzle. You take on life. You take on. I saw someone had a thing, in case you want to do a puzzle and travel with it, so there's this kind of thing that holds the puzzle pieces in place halfway. So I thought that's Shabbos. Shabbos, puzzle pieces are kept in place. Sunday you start on the puzzle again. But we have to know that before we were born, we saw that all the puzzle pieces fit. And in a puzzle, there's always one piece that just everything fits. So one piece of this must be from a different puzzle. This has to be a mistake. You call the company, there's a mistake. No, it fits. All the pieces in our life fit. One of the Spinker Rebbes had an interesting minig. When you came to him and you wanted to become a chassid, he would ask you a question, a philosophical question, and you have to give him the right answer, or the answer that he wanted. If not, he did not accept you. I mean, he gave you a bracha, but he didn't accept you as a card-carrying member of the chassidus. So 2 people came and they wanted to get that, is there a book, a Baron's book that says Spinker Rebbe's questions, how we can pass, study it? No. He asks everyone different questions. So they come into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe looks at them, and the Rebbe walks to the window. He says, "What do you see?" The Rebbe, the court, people going back and forth. "What do you see on the floor there?" There was a piece of paper like dancing in the wind, going around and around, caught in a circular wind card. He says, "Do you think that the Rabbi Shalom has hana from that piece of paper?" That's my question. They're going, "Oh, great." He says, "I'm giving you 3 days. 3 days to think about it." So these are very deep thinking people. And after 3 days they came back, and the Rebbe said, "No, does the Kadosh Baruch Hu derive pleasure from that piece of paper that's dancing around?" So they said, "Can we tell the Rebbe a mashal?" Shuaschei, go ahead. He says, there's Yankel the water carrier. Yankel the water carrier schlepping the water. And he says, how long can I do this for? He doesn't know never someone's going to invent a pipe soon, and it's going to wipe out 10 trillion stories of water carriers, and he doesn't know what's coming. But now he has no money for Shabbos. And he meets Moshe the Gevir. Moshe is walking in his fur coat, and Moshe says to Yankel, "You look like there's so much weight on you look like you're holding a luggage thing in a scale." He says, I'm schlepping this water, so many people aren't even paying me. He says, we have a very simple Shabbos, which I enjoy, and I can't afford, and I don't have nothing for Shabbos. And Moshe puts his arms around Yankel, says, how much do you need for Shabbos? Yankel says 20 ruble. He takes out leather thing, takes out 2 crisp 20 ruble bills that were just printed, because he had a meeting with the finance minister, gives it to him, the ink is still wet, he says, have a good Shabbos. He says, Moshe starts dancing with his 20 ruble. He is dancing. And he runs into his house and says, we're going to have candles, we're going to have lech, we're going to have chalas. He's so happy. There's another guy in town, Zambul. Zambul used to be very rich. He invested with Bernie Madoff, or Bernie Madoff's great-grandfather or something like that. And he lost every penny he had. Maybe you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't be too overcritical of people. But Al Kapanim, in any event, he lost all his money, or he's about to lose all of his money. And he comes to the Rebbe, he says, I used to be rich, and I'm used to a lifestyle. Everything is crashing. I have lawsuits. What am I going to do? The bank is after me. So he sends him to Baruch with a letter. And Baruch says, Zamval, I hear you have come in hard times. He goes, no one wants to lend me money. No one wants to borrow me money. They lend me money, I can't borrow it. They realize where I am. Everyone knows I'm in trouble. Baruch reads the letter. He says, Zamval, the Rebbe says, he thinks you can reconstruct your life. I'm going with it. How much do you need? He says, 50,000 ruble. So he writes him out a check for 50,000 ruble. And Zamval walks out dancing. And these 2 people are dancing near each other. Yankel, the water carrier, and Zamval is dancing. He says, one is dancing with 20 ruble, and the other is dancing with 50,000 ruble. Now, if you had a luggage scale to measure their level of simcha, it's the same level of simcha. He has the same level of simcha with his 20 ruble as Zambul has with his 50,000. And they both have the same level of akus nefesh. So really, is it the amount of money that makes the difference in life? It's every person has his needs, every person has his situation, and the balance of what makes him happy or not really has nothing to do with money in terms of how we measure money. Now let's go a little bit weiter. So here you have a difference of, 49,990 ruble, and both are exactly where they were before and where they were afterwards. Next, we have a third guy. We have Yitzchak Zev, the cobbler. He's a great shoemaker. He mamish makes new shoes. He loves his life. He has parnasa. He's not rich. He's not poor. He has great kids. He has a wonderful marriage. And Yitzchak Zev doesn't really have anything he doesn't have a down. He doesn't have an up. Because he's not really threatened in this way. He can't lose millions of dollars because he doesn't have millions of dollars to lose. He doesn't need a $50,000 loan. Neither does he need a 20 ruble thing to make Shabbos. So is Yitzchak Zev going to enjoy life or not? And the answer is, it depends on his own soul searching, as he does the soles of his shoes. He could walk out on a given day and say, life is going on, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu has given me such a gift. That from Shabbos to Shabbos I don't have to worry, and I have a wonderful wife, and I have wonderful children. And he can say the air is so fresh, and he can see a piece of paper dancing on the floor, and he can say, look at that beautiful piece of paper. It's so gorgeous. You ever saw children will watch leaves going round and around? They're so happy. Why are you so happy about leaves going round and around? Look what it's doing. Someone taught them that trick with a soda thing that it pops up and down. With the bubbles. They get so excited. Wow, look at that. I wish I can get excited about that. Why are children excited about it? Because they have a certain appreciation for life. The Brisker Rav says they come from a world of simcha. It evaporates. They lose it in this world. But when they're little, the laugh of a child is a wholehearted laugh most of the time. So this Yitzchak Zev is going to have to decide who he is. In a way, he has a bigger nisayon than Yankel and Zalman. Because these guys are faced with a crisis, and naturally they're in pain by the crisis, and they're happy. The guy that life is just rolling on has a much bigger nisayon to see the beauty in life. And if Yitzchak Zev enjoys the paper dancing around, and he continues to thank Hashem without the up and down, then he has mastered the ultimate in his level of emunah and betachon. So if you're asking us if the Rebbeinu Shalom enjoys the paper going up and down, we are sure that the Rebbeinu Shalom enjoys when Yitzchak Zev enjoys the paper going up and down. That was their answer to the question, and he told them, welcome to my Chasidus. Right after that piece of Gemara, which Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the Gemara says like this, that Rish Lakish darshaned as follows. We say in Kriya Shema, V'otzares hashamayim, Hashem holds back the heavens. Holding back the heavens of rain is like a woman by childbirth, the Gemara says. The baby is there, it's not coming out. She is not only, there's a lack of baby, but she's in pain. There's a tremendous sakana. Not only are the heavens dark, but there's a tremendous danger if the rain doesn't come out. And Rish Lakish is teaching us that in most dark situations, what you really have is the bracha. You hear screaming and yelling, but it's really birth pangs. We see darkness, but it's really the rain that gives life. And you have to believe that the bracha is there and bring out the bracha. But in order to bring out the bracha, a person has to go through a stage of darkness. To explain this a little bit, there was a fellow who used to do business and he would do foreclosures. And he found out that the Porat Shalkovska, whatever, is in big trouble. He has a gambling debt and he has to sell off his forest for dirt cheap. And he puts in a bid and he gets it. He gets the bid. Tomorrow he comes down, sells. He's going to get a forest that is worth hundreds of thousands of ruble. He's going to get it for a steal, 50,000 ruble. Right here and then he starts selling the lumber. So he comes to the chart of the Rebbe, his Rebbe. It doesn't even talk about this. He talks about 10 other things. And on his way out, he says to the Rebbe, by the way, I'm signing tomorrow on a forest. And the Rebbe says, don't buy the forest. This is like a super deal of a lifetime. This is like, did he ask me? I say not to do it. So he walked out and he really, it's crazy. This is the greatest deal in the world. This is a sure winner. So his rationalization was, the Rebbe he never asked the Rebbe. It's like, you have to listen to a Rebbe if you ask. But if he didn't ask and the Rebbe just told him, who says that he has to subject himself to the jurisdiction of the Rebbe? So with all sorts of tirutzim, really the Rebbe didn't probably chap what he understood. The Rebbe didn't really mean what he said. Anyway, he buys the forest. He buys the forest, he's so excited, they get out there, they start chopping the wood, and everything is rotten, everything is moldy, the whole thing is gone, and he's left with lawsuits, and he's left with sorrows. His 50,000 cost him hundreds of thousands. So he comes back to the Rebbe, he says, see, the Rebbe cursed me, because I didn't listen to him. So the Schachter, the Rebbe said, Chasul Haska, never cursed anyone in my life. Never cursed anyone. There was this person that was doing terrible things to people, and he came to the Belzerov, and the Belzerov told him to stop. And he said, I'm not going to stop. He says, you're causing people to lose their lives. He said, I'm not going to stop. So the Rav said, you're not going to live out the year. He goes, I know that the Rebbe's klalas are really brachas. So the Belzerov turned to his Gabba. He said, okay, you curse him. Okay? The Rebbe said, I never cursed anyone in my life. He said, so why did you tell me not to buy the forest? He says, everything else you asked me, there was an element of doubt. Should I? Shouldn't I? There was a little bit of, turbulence, and you were going to make a decision. Whatever happens, happens. He said, that's a siman bracha. When something is a sure winner, that's dangerous. You didn't even ask me. That meant you were so sure this is a killing deal, you're going to make a profit. I knew there's no bracha there. There has to be a certain darkness in order to bring out the rain, or else it doesn't happen. Now, who's telling us this din? Rish Lakish. The Gemara says in Masechtas Bava Metzia that Rabbi Yochanan is going for a swim in the Yarden, and he sees the head of the bandits. He is the chief. The terror of the forest. Rish Lakish is swinging away back and forth. And he says to him, if you would take that koyach and put it into learning. So he says to Rabbi Yochanan, if you would take that beauty on your face, you can use it for. And Rabbi Yochanan says, I have a sister that's prettier than me. You give up your bandit life, and you join me, and guess what? I give you my sister. So Rish Lakish becomes one of the Amirah. And Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are considered one of the chains in the Messiah of Torah Shabbat. So the Gemara says that after many, many years, whatever happened, happened, and Rish Lakish passed away. And Rabbi Yochanan was Ois Mensch. He couldn't live. He says, where's Bar Lakish? Where is he? Where is he? I can't learn. So they went, they got the sharpest of the Talmidim, Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas, to learn with Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan would say something, and Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas wanted to be Mechazik Rabbi Yochanan. So he told him, Tanya the Messiah Lach. There's a Baraisa that supports you. He goes, I don't need a Baraisa that supports me. He said, I would say a din and Rish Lakish would attack me with 24 kashas. And I would answer 24 terutzim. And that's how we got to the bottom of the halacha. I don't need someone that supports me. And Rabbi Yochanan was so crying, where are you, Rish Lakish? Where are you, Rish Lakish? Until he mamash went out of his mind, and they were mispal, they should leave this world. They should continue the Chavrusa Shaft up there in Shemayim. He always had pink 24 kashas. How does this? Never understood this. You have an argument, have a debate. What are you talking about? I have 24 questions on you. Let me tell you something else. Oh, I have 24 questions on that. Why? Never 23 questions, never 25 questions. You know what 24 questions means? Represents the 24 hours of the day. See, that's nice. What's the connection? The sun is in a different position for the 24 hours. Most of the time, we have questions. The questions are based on the giyas. They're based on our personal thing. A defense attorney will ask different questions than a prosecutor, because each one wants to prove his case. A lawyer that is selling by a closing will ask different questions than a lawyer that is buying, because each one represents a different position. They're going to say, only my question is the legitimate one, and they're going to accept different kinds of answers. Most questions and answers are not necessarily real, because they represent to some level a certain bias, right? You know, a landlord's going to scream and walk in the winter and say, it is a heat wave, sure, only 20 degrees, what do you need steam for? You know? And a tenant's going to walk when it's 60 degrees outside. It's crazy, that landlord, that cheapskate, what's he doing? And it's real. It's real because they have negiyas, because they have perceptions, and they have interests, so you physically begin to get cold, and you begin, when they say there was a story, this guy was he was such a stingy guy, unbelievable. And once he had a certain disease, he was losing his body temperature. He was getting colder and colder. He was about to freeze to death. The doctor says, listen, you're dying, you're finished. So they come to him and they said, you never gave a penny for tzedakah. In your last minutes, you want the state to take everything? He goes, what do you want? I want $50,000 for the bigger chaylim. He goes, you have no choice. All right, he signs the check. He goes, no, I want $50,000 for the fund for almanas. What? He goes, in 2 seconds, the state's going to get everything. You have no will. Because he signs the check. I want $50,000 for Achnasas Kala fund. He goes, give me all the money back. So what's the problem? He goes, I'm schwitzing bullets, he says. You know, I'm sweating. I was cured. There's negiyah. Somebody once showed me in Congress, congressmen put amendments to certain things. So there was a congressman in Alaska that wanted an amendment to a certain pipeline deal that there should be, in the New York City subway system, that the federal transportation should pay for the switching systems. Where does that come to Alaska? What do you need switching systems in Alaska? The polar bears line up and the penguins line up. They should stop at this where the lights and green should change. Right? Then the guy wrote that a New York congressman wanted that, I don't remember what it was, but something like, that the federal subsidies for housing should go to igloos also or something. They realized these two are washing each other's hands. We two get together, I'll do for you, you do for me. So who's real? Rabbi Lakish asked 24 questions from every position where the sun was. Rish Lakish said, I got to get to the emes. So I'm not trying to prove myself right. Just like the sun is in 24 different positions and that takes up the entire world, I'm going to ask you a question from every possible angle in the world that there is. And Rabbi Yochanan answered him from every possible angle in the world, totally free of their personal negiyas. And that is how the emes came out. And Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish was irreplaceable. Rabbi Yochanan could not find someone to replace him. And he had no. Do you understand that in order for Rish Lakish to have attacked Rabbi Yochanan this way, it was that koyach of the bandit that was within him? That until now he was the robber, he was the bandit, he was the terror of the woods, of the forest. He was the most wanted man. Even though the bandit, there's a whole shiloh place who says, if he was a Talmud, he started out, he went there, and then Yehuda says that he was like a Lahavla Robin Hood kind of a thing. Whatever the case was, he wasn't Mimazuk the best bacher in the top yeshiva. He was out there robbing. That's what the Gemara says. So he took that power of bandit in him, and he became an irreplaceable chaylik in the Messiah of Torah Shabbat. Do you understand what that means? It means that you and I have taivas, negative aspects, and we think if the world would know Rahman would flow at Russia, I'm so embarrassed. No! Your kayach, your taiva, the negative aspect of your being, your Nisayan, when converted, becomes a crucial part of the Messiah of Torah Shabbat Peh in your Chelik Torah that cannot be replaced by anyone else in the world. Do you understand that? Says the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, Perik Mem Gimel, that on the day Rish Lakish passed away, all his colleagues passed away. All the other guys passed away. The other bandits, they all did it. Somebody once showed me a tour of an old shul someplace. And he was showing me, those old things with the bulbs you screw on the side. We don't, it has to be shuls at least 100 years old. They have those plaques, the yard site little metal things, and you screw the bulbs in. And someone told me in the old, I don't want to say which yeshiva, Yom Kippur, they had the janitor come up because the Yankees and the Giants were playing the World Series, and one row was the Yankees and one row was the Giants, and every time the Yankees scored a run, he turned on another bulb, and, the guy was giving a drasha before Neil, and he said, Rabbi, I did have tshuva to them, and goes, and he goes, I see it, my words are penetrating, yeah. That was the thing there. So I was once in one of these places, and the guy shows me, in the turn of the century, you had all kinds of people on this thing. And he shows me, I don't know, I'm not so into mafia movies, but the guy Bugsy Siegel. So he shows me his name on the yahrzeit thing, and his son. I said, him and his son died on the same day. He said, the same shootout. Yeah, they died on the same day. So it says, on the day Rish Lakish passed away, all of his colleagues passed away on the same day. Because it was a kapeda between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. He didn't die because of the kapeda, even though it happened because of the kapeda. Nice, that was they died. So, they're all waiting together up there in the waiting room, and they call him Rish Lakish first, and they send him into Eilon Haba. They go, this is a good place out here. This is what bandits get. And then the bandits try to come into the Admirals Club, and they said, no. Why, we have economy tickets? You wish you had economy tickets, So they said, hey, it's not fair. He was the same bandit we was. Yeah, but he took all of those kaiches and he turned it to Torah. They said, we'll do it too. There's only one problem. You're too late. Okay? So we're not too late. The reason we're not too late, we're here. Right? So, in other words, the taiva, the stiris, the nesiyainos are our kayach to turn around, and the world needs us. The world needs us to turn around. And because we all have different levels of taiva, different levels of nesiyainos, therefore the kaychais, and we turn that around, is irreplaceable. It's not matched. And that is why Parasha Pinchas, which introduces tsar and pain, the 3 weeks, has all of the Yom Tovim. Because if you take your Nesiyainis and you convert it, that is the makar of the Yomim Tovim. And that's what the Baditsheva means. When things are going your way and Hashem loves Simcha and it opens up all the scenarios of Pernos and so on. Okay, but here comes the tough part. That only comes when Kishenichnas Av Mimatin, you're dealing with the miyat in your life, you're dealing with the restrictions in your life, that piece of metal is, and in short, also besimcha. It has to work hand in hand. And that's the Mishenichnas Av. Why is the month of Av called Av? It's your father. When it's Adar, we take it for granted. Hashem is so good to us. Things aren't going good to us. Hashem, why don't you let me get this piece? Just a millimeter more, my computer will work! Because I'm your father, and I know what your tafkid is down here on this world. Why do you give me such tightness, such nisyonis? I'm a bandit! Because when you convert that for toiv, the world needs your bracha that nobody else in the world can. Do you understand that? Can you possibly understand that? Someone told me a story that there was this man in a nursing home. His mother was in a nursing home, and he gets a call one day. And the nursing home director says, his mother was over 100. She says, I have some difficult news for you. He goes, oh no, what happened? He goes, Mom, it's over? She's, yeah. It's like Sabrach, and he's shmeted, and he runs, and he takes care, and he orders the Chaver Kadisha, and he calls his siblings, and he starts working on the Hesp, and he says how Mama never gave up, and Mama was always the care of everyone, and they bury her in the plot that she paid all the years, and and they walk away from the Levaya, and he's sitting Shiva. And 2 weeks later, he's home, and he gets a call, and there's a voice on the other end of the line that says, Beryl, 2 weeks you don't talk to your mother? He's like, oh no. Well, whoa, he knew he had a special long-distance plan, but, What? Who is this? What is this? 2 weeks, you don't come visit me? You don't call? You don't do nothing? And he goes, Ma! Yeah, son, you okay? What's with you? And he's like, so after he faints and gets his blood pressure back, He calls the administrator and says that there's a problem with my mother. What, you don't like the burial place? No, I don't like where she just called me. Hey, you've been, some people take a tragedy very hard and it affects them. Don't affect me nothing, all right? Get up there, see what's doing. And he comes down a few minutes later and he is shaking like a leaf. He goes, you're not going to believe this, but I don't know what his mother's name was, but there was another patient across the room with the exact same name, and it wasn't your mother died, it was someone else who died. That's buried, that you said a hesped for, and you sat Shiva for, and you, and like the nursing home director goes, lawsuits, am I in trouble? This is going to be the story of the year. He goes, listen, what happened with me is one thing. You better call those other people, tell them the mother passed away. Maisa shahaya kachai. That this mother of this, she should live and be well. I don't know if she's still here or not. But she Friday night, she's in the nursing home, she's sending lecht. Another old lady her age walks and they talk, same name, same this and that. She says, you have a Rabbi Shalom to come home to. I'm so old, and where am I going? She goes, never too late to do tshuva. I'm 103 years old. 2 years younger than me. You're a baby, You have a driver's license yet? Come on. Start doing tshuva. Come sin lech. And she sins lech with her, and she davens with her, and the lady starts covering her hair the first time in a century. And finally she says to her son, I want to be buried in an Orthodox cemetery, and I want to have all the Orthodox rules. The kids are laughing their heads off. They're going, what? No way, you're buried, we're very liberal-minded. You're going to do such a thing as religion, and of yourself. You're going to be, ever cremated and so on, and you don't have the money for it. And a nice thing to say to a mother. In any event, she said, look, my children control my life. I can't control them. She goes, you daven to the Eibishter, you're going to have just a night, you would have as night, what my kids would do for me, you're going to have. It's impossible. With Rabbi Shalom, nothing is impossible. And every Friday night they daven. And guess what? Whatever her kids would do for their mother, they did for this lady. They did it. We're going to come up to after 120 years, and we're going to see trillions of these stories every day in our lives. But by then, it's no kinds. So we're going to say it's too late. Now you see it. But the schar for believing it down here when the metal is too short, for that, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tells us, that is the key to Yeshua's and to Simchas.